Okay, dokie. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, March 13th, 2017, sometime during the day, and hopefully everyone had a good weekend. I was in the middle of trying to do some work for the videos this week, and I've gotten stuck, so we're going to work on the normal stuff. Hello to everybody who's hanging out. Eldridge, feel free to ask any questions you want. His question is, am I allowed to ask a question about Fullscreen? If I can answer it, I'll be more than happy to try to answer it. If not, then I can't, but I'll do my best. We'll probably just answer questions, of course, as we go along, and we're working on our not our FPS. Our FPS was the other thing I was working on. Oh crap! There's a word. Oh, the RTS HUD thingy that we were working on from last week. We are continuing to work on. Jalaric. This stream is to help people with problems. The stream is for me to work on stuff and help people as best as I can. That's about it. So if you have a question I can try to help you with, feel free to ask. If not, then, well, not. I'll do my best. I'm not experienced in everything by any means. And while we're doing that, I will work on some other stuff. My building I broke something in my building apparently, so let's see if we can fix that in the meantime. Interesting. I wonder what I broke. I don't even remember doing anything. Let's see. So yeah, feel free to ask your questions while I try to figure out what I broke last week when everything was working when we left. That is hilarious. Okay, I'm passing in self as the building. And this will pass along an actor reference. Yeah, so we're good there. Why did this one give me an error? Let's see. This blueprint is not HUD RTS. Oh, duh, right here. Why did this disconnect itself? Huh. It's an interesting one. This one's failing. Why are all of a sudden I'm having structs failing? It's gotta be because of this, isn't it? Let's see if this is it. Recombine. I bet you it's because this needs to be broken. Because this seems like it was an issue from the other day. Yeah, okay. So for whatever reason, splitting the structs inside of an output has been causing issues. That is extremely weird. Hello, everybody else who's hanging out and about. Yeah, anyone needs to ask questions, feel free to ask questions. I'm hoping people can hear me. Do you know anything about reflecting a line trace when it hits the surface of an object? Yeah, sure. You just reverse it. You get the normal and you go from there. So, for example, we have a playground. Let's see if I have my FPS still loaded up. That's the easiest thing for me to find it. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. There we go. Let me open this to show you. Profit. I do not have a degree in anything. Hello, James. So, Jalaric, I already have this in my MVP FPS example, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this so I can show you how you would do that. So let's find our character. And let's find where his line trace is at, which is going to be... Oh, where did we put the line trace? Up here. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so this is the older version. So let me open up the newer version where I actually fixed this. Give me a second. Basically, we will be taking the line trace hit results, grabbing the normal, doing a little bit of math with a certain node, and it will give us basically the opposite direction. There we go. So here's my character. And I already did this in here because we were reflecting our... let's see if we can find it. There we go. There we go. We were reflecting our emitter when we were hitting a line trace. So if you grab the normal from a hit result, from a line trace, this is the direction the hit is facing. Technically, this is the reflected surface if you grab the normal. So for example, if we were to run this, and let me grab a weapon. Oh crap, I need a projectile weapon. Where's my projectile weapon? It's been a while since we used it. There we go. So if we fire this bullet and it goes forward and it hits this surface, it's going to hit this surface right here. The normal of this surface is facing me. So if we grab the normal, this vector is our reflected vector. So this would be the information you want if you want something to go back. So for example, if we were to, let's grab this. Let me show you quickly. Let's grab another line trace node here. We're going to grab this normal. This will be the normal. This will be, let's see, let's go with our location. This will be our hit point. Our normal is going to be here, like this. We're going to multiply this by a float. We'll go like 1,000. We'll do persistent. We'll do this as our end. We'll go ahead and just plug this into here for now. And run this. Grab a weapon. Fire it off. And you can see the return result. You can see me firing from here. It hits the surface, and then that's the opposite direction of the surface. You can see it right there. It's going from here, and it's firing out to there. We hit, for example, that's the opposite direction of the surface. That's what our normal is. So that is how you would get the reflecting a line trace, grabbing the normal. No, this is just an example for somebody. Someone asked, how do you reflect a line trace, basically? And you use the normal, and then you can multiply the normal by a float, for example, and it'll basically give you a endpoint for a distance. We're actually trying to work on the RTS HUD is our actual thing for today besides questions. Let's see, Mott, I have a question. Can you open the camera? My camera is a actor. I don't have a blueprint inside of it. So I can't really do anything in my camera. What are we asking about the camera? Let's see. Eldridge. I have a game instance with a custom event that executes console full screen. The custom event is called for the level blueprint. A print string says working, but full screen never happens. Why? Eldridge, are you doing this inside the editor? Full screen console commands for full screen will not work in the editor. You have to run it in standalone or the cooked build. Even standalone has problems. So that is something to keep in mind. And I don't want to run this in full screen because it screws up on the stream, doesn't it, right? Let's see, toggle full, what was it? Shoot. Set res would do it now. See, I usually use the game user settings. Okay, from a build, it should work. I know, yeah, see, I have, here, let's find, where's it at? Here, I haven't, let me just pull up my examples right here. I have not used the console commands for full screening. I've using the game user setting stuff. It should be the same thing on the back end. And it does work for me in the built version of it. It just doesn't work in the other version. So, for example, here's our settings example map. I know if I play this, for example, in an editor window, and we pull up the full screen information. Let's make sure it's 1920 by 1080. Seriously, you're going to be a pain in my butt, aren't you? Yeah. It's not going to full screen itself out, as you can see here. If I have to run that in standalone game or the built one, and it should work fine. But even then, I know this tends to have issues from time to time because it's a giant pain in the rear. See? And this is running full screen. So, whoops, let's get out of full screen. God darn it. There we go. And that one is just simply using the game user settings to set the full screen resolution. I don't know about the console command. Maybe the console command has an issue with the built settings or running from the level script. I know a lot of issues can come from running in the level blueprint. Maybe have it inside of a different blueprint or look into using the game user settings. Let's see. We have the... Where is it at? Oh, this is the basic example. We have the... Here we go. The set full screen mode node inside of the game user settings. And this allows you to toggle it inside the blueprint directly without using the console command. I'd recommend using this one because as of 4.12 or 4.13, when this was introduced, maybe even 4.11, this is the proper way of doing it now. And as you saw there, I'm using this code right here, and it does full screen for me properly. But I am doing this from a UMG widget. I'm not doing this from the level blueprint. I'd recommend pulling out of the level blueprint if you have the option. The level blueprint itself generally tends to have issues from time to time. The only other thing I could possibly think of is technically the starting map could, I mean this is a long shot, but the starting map in the editor can be different than the game's starting map. So it's possible you're using a different map to start up your game, and that one doesn't have the full screen in the level blueprint. That's about the only other thing I could think of off the top of my head. Hopefully that's some information. But yeah, I would look into the game user settings, set full screen mode. Try to run this from something like a blueprint itself, or maybe your player character, or your main menu startup, something like that. Let's see. Mott. I don't have a camera. Mott, if that's what you're asking. No, I don't have a camera because it would obstruct the actual game, the learning stuff. Basically, it covers up part of the screen, and I don't want to do that. Quick question. 180 quick turn, FPS. Never does a complete 180. Always seems like a plus minus 20 degrees. Using a timeline and set yaw input. How is your timeline set up? That's about the only thing I could think of. Timelines are FPS independent, so that shouldn't really be an issue. For example. So that shouldn't be it. I mean, if you're just lerping, basically, set yaw. Maybe that's... Okay, so if you're using the set yaw input, for example, you're basically adding input that might not be what you want. Maybe you want to disable the player's input, set the rotation with the timeline using like a lerp or a vinterp, and then once they've done turning, give them their input back. It's possible that the player itself is fighting with the input, or the input itself is getting some other input at the same time. That would be my guess off the top of my head. So for example, where's my character at? Here's my character. So for example, you know, you had a timeline, and then your timeline 0 to 1. Let's say we want to flip over half a second, add 2 keys. This is just a thought off the top of my head. So we'll set this to 0.5 and 1. 1. Hello, 1. Thank you. That way we at least have an output here, and then you have something like a lerp rotator. Yeah, lerp rotator would work probably. And then then we grab like this. We do set rotation, and this would be on our player. So let's see. So it's set actor rotation probably. Don't know if this is necessarily the workable way right now. This is just off the top of my head. So this would alert over half a second. This will set the rotation of the actor. Then you could do something like disable input over here. Grab the player controller. For the love of God, where's the end? There we go. So like disable the input, and then you'd have like over here input like this, something like this. Okay, this should not be there. There we go. And then you'd have it like get actor rotation. So this will get us the current actor's rotation. So we'd want something like this, and then we would we do something like promote to variable, and this would be our starting rotation. If you run this inside of no, we couldn't do it inside of a function because we can't timeline in function. So that gives us a starting rotation, and then we'd have something like you know, promote this one to a variable. We'd have like an ending. Oops, stop it. Let's see, we'd have like an ending rotation, which would just be our starting rotation, and then add a rotator or combine rotators. Probably combine rotators is smarter. So, you know, like 180 on the X. I don't know the exact numbers you'd have there, but basically you're going to grab your starting rotation, add your 180 or whatever to it on whichever axis it is, and set that as your ending rotation. And then you do your little lerpy thing right here between your starting and your ending, like that. That probably would work. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's see. Since I just coded this, let's see if it does anything. I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out. I don't have control over the character in this one. Whoops. Seriously, did I just hit play? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I have this set up for a different camera right now. So let's go back into our RTS character. Let's stop this. Let's grab the code out of the RTS character. Let's throw it in our base blueprint for testing purposes. Right here, like that. Okay. And then let's go. I know there's errors, so I'm not worried about that for now. And let's go to, just screw it. Let's do a new level, default. Let's make sure it's set to our third person game mode. Third person character, good to go. Go back in here, fix our variables. Bloop, bloop, save. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, well, I mean, technically that's not on the right axis. Maybe it's the Z axis. Oh, that's funnier than hell. I'm gonna tell you what. There we go. So I mean, and that looks like 180 to me. Like exactly every single time. Yeah, I would try something like that. That's my thought process. So let's walk through this, and see if we can maybe help you out and figure out what may be going wrong with your test implementation. So we're gonna grab the actor's. This is inside our actor first of all. We're gonna grab the actor's current rotation and store it as the starting rotation because we want to make sure we have this set. Then we add whatever we want, combining rotators, so we end up with where we want to be. That's our ending rotation. In this case, 180 on my Z. We're going to feed this into a timeline. Timeline's going to play from start every time, or else it's going to screw up if we don't. And this is just a simple 0 to 1 lerp over whatever time. So if I want it quicker, for example, a 20th of a second, we'll do something like this, because I did notice that was really friggin' slow. So we'll do something like that. So this is just gonna drive my lerp. It's gonna say from 0 to 1 over 0.2 seconds. First thing we're gonna do when we start the timeline is okay, so this is a problem. This is stupid right here. Let me fix this. We are basically calling disable input every single run of the timeline. That was just extremely stupid. Okay, so before we run the timeline, we're going to disable input. This is basically going to stop the player from being able to do anything on their keyboard or their mouse. Once and then we're going to run this. Our update is basically going to call set actor rotation. Since we're in the character, we use the actor rotation setter. We're going to lerp between our starting and end rotation over the time, so the 0.2 seconds. Once this is all done, we're going to go ahead and re-enable the input for the player. And I mean, it works. I mean, there's our instant turn. I mean, you could have it continue turn, you know, you could do some, if you wanted him not to flip on the same axis, I guess that really doesn't matter. I meant to like complete a 360, you could do that. But I mean, here's flipping back and forth. And you can see, no matter how fast I click it, we're still going to get our full rotation. Assuming you check for something. So for example, the smart thing to do would be to let's rename this timeline to flip character, and we'll go over here and we will do our where's it at? Come on, here we go. Flip character. We'll get this one and we'll do is playing, and we'll do if, and this is just a safety check. We'll do that. So we'll check to see if we're playing before we even allow this to run again. So if we do that, then no matter what, no matter how fast we spam it, they're always going to flip back and forth to the same spot. No matter how, and I mean, I can pound as fast as I want, and it's not going to work. So that's roughly what I would go at in terms of trying to flip a player. That's probably, that would be like the sanest way of doing it to me personally. Whether it's the best way or not, I don't know. Yeah, look into disabling input. That is also something smart to do. Because the player may be forcing their input at the same time. Mott, yep, thank you. I love making the tutorials. Glad they help. Let's see. I want to know about a vehicle set. I want to make a flying car, failed countless times. What do you mean by a flying car, if I may ask? One thing you might want to consider is if you created a... So let's do... I can't do that because that won't work. So... if you created a... Well, there's a couple things. Let's just try this the basic way. Let's make this a pawn, because we don't want character movement. And technically we could turn on flying, but we don't want to do that. But you have the movement components down here, and one of them is a floating pawn movement. This basically would allow your pawn basically not to use gravity. That would be a good start. The honest answer of what I'd recommend doing is to do this. Go into your launcher, go to the Learn tab, wait for it to load up, find the content examples, which are hiding in here somewhere. Where are they at? Hiding? There we go, content examples. Grab the content examples and download them. Create a project with them. So in this case, we've created a content examples project. Open up the content examples. And inside of our content examples, we have some maps. If you open levels and you look through the different levels, one of these is going to be our input examples. If I can remember what it's called, blueprint input examples. And you open that up. And Vanguard's bringing up a point. Yes, there's multiple ways of doing this. I recommend this as a start because if you go down here in the blueprint input examples to the last one in here, there is a UFO. And there's a fully working example of a UFO. You can go up, you can go down. It's got impulse movement, rotational movement, and you've got a turbo boost. So, I mean, and it just depends on how rigid you want your controls to be. But, I mean, I like this one because it works on an impulse system. It works, you know, semi-realistically. It's not like you're just going to push forward and the character moves forward. That's why I like this one. Yeah, but like Vanguard's mentioning, You can simulate flying just by simply using a line trace pointing down, figuring out what distance you want the character to be, and you could just give it force to basically have it float, or you could just set the distance at all times. Have, for example, if you had a block, for example, you could have a line trace from each corner of your vehicle, you know, the 4 corners on the bottom, trace down. Wherever it hits, basically determine the distance and then push your character off. There was a really cool... I knew this was going to bite me in the ass because I didn't remember where it was at. I should have added this to my links. Oh, there we go. Of course, it would come up as for... Okay, cool. This is something I'd recommend watching. I typed in UE4 Vehicle Physics Arcade. This is the video. This is the web blog, and this is the video itself. They're both the same. This is a really cool one. It goes what Vanguard is talking about, basically. It walks you through how they set their stuff up, and he walks you through the basics. He's just got a box that has physics, and then it goes through the math of applying the force with the line trace. And it shows how to basically fake suspension using line traces. And you can see that at down there at the bottom. And you could just bring it off the ground, and it gives you flying without wheels basically on the ground. And of course, you could then apply any distance you want if you want them to fly a certain distance from the ground. And it gives it a nice physics-based, adjustable, you know, but this is for an arcade racer. Yeah. Yeah, this was a really cool video I liked watching. It's a way to fake vehicle physics without using wheels and stuff like that. It gives you a nice arcade feel. But like you've mentioned, you've tried a lot of systems, flying game template, hovering, cars, flying, it just doesn't feel right. Unfortunately, the feel is going to be completely up to you as the designer, and it's very subjective. How am I talking and chatting at the same time? Oh, the chat you see in there is using Restream, and you're basically seeing everyone else in all the other places, YouTube, Beam, and Twitch, rebroadcasting their messages. So, for example, you're on YouTube, Future Banger, Vanguard's on Beam, and it allows communication between the 2 platforms. Okay, so I think those are the main questions. Okay, here we go. So what we were working on last time, this is what where we at so far. We're working on making a little RTS HUD-like example. So for example, I have my little basic HUD simulating maybe something like the website. Do you mean the website for the video? Or stuff like that? Because if it was a website for the video, here, let me grab this. There's the website for the video. I keep forgetting I should be pasting this stuff in chat, but that's the website for the video we just watched. Check out that video, Mott. See if, I mean, it's a really good start, and then you can just adjust the distances. And then, honestly, at that point, it's just a crap ton of tweaking. It is so much work and math getting vehicle physics feeling good. It's a ton of it. You probably spend more time tweaking vehicle physics than you would creating the entire basic vehicle and getting the game up and running. Just to be honest, it is that much work for a vehicle to get it feeling right. So for this RTS stuff, we have a basic RTS look. We're going for a interactable dynamic menu system is what we're working on here. And then we're going to add in a few more things as we go along. Not going to be a full RTS. This is just simply a way to show how to use like an interactable dynamic menu. So like a normal RTS, we have maybe a little mini map here, maybe some unit selection information, but we have our action bar over here. We can click on this and it's going to create our town hall. Clicking on the town hall gives us the options for the town hall. Clicking anywhere else gives us our main interface. So it allows us to adjust and create things and have a dynamic UI based on what we have selected. So what we plan on working with today is getting it where I can actually click on stuff, spawn things in a certain place, try to do basic placement just to get sort of interaction working. Let's see, we have a question. I'm making a sports game. I'm including items that can be attached to the player. For example, I want to have a jetpack that you can attach to your character and that gives you flight abilities. Would I use interfaces for that or some other way? Oh, and can I punch the code to make it function in the item itself? My opinion would be to have that as an actor component. That would be my personal opinion. For example, if you were to make a blueprint class, we have an actor component. An actor component is a reusable component that can be added to an actor. Think of it as kind of like a blueprint you can put onto another blueprint or onto something existing. So if you make an actor component, and for example, we could call this, jetpack. And then inside of here, we have any of our code associated with this actor component. Gives the player the ability to fly, gives the player certain special abilities, whatever it is. Then inside of your character, your vehicle or whatever it is, the sports game, you want to attach a jetpack to the character. Then you can just add that component onto there. So, actor component. Let's see. There we go. Actor component jetpack. And you'll add that, and it becomes just like any other component you can add with your own special code. So you could easily have different components for your different add-ons, the attachments that you want, and then easily add and remove them as needed. You could physically add and remove them by doing it this way. Other than that, you can always attach blueprints to other blueprints. You can, you have the attach to component node, which will allow you to, for example, spawn in. If, for example, instead of doing an actor component, you just made a blueprint. So, for example, blueprint jetpack. And this contained the physical look of the jetpack and any of the code inside of it. Then you could just attach that, for example, spawn actor from class, spawn my jetpack. So boom, this puts a jetpack in the world somewhere physically. Then you can attach that onto wherever your character is. So for example, you could attach it to yourself. You could attach it, maybe you have a socket or a scene component somewhere. So for example, I could have a scene component called the back target, and for example, this would attach my backpack to the back target, so this spot on my character. So this spot could be, here, for example. This is, of course, assuming you don't want to use bones and stuff like that. This is just a really easy way to set stuff up. So here's just a little scene component, which is just a transform. I have it on my character right there, for example. The smarter thing would probably be to put it on the mesh itself. So that way it would move with the mesh itself while it animates. And then you can, whoops, where'd we go? We lost it. There we go. And then, there we go. And then this would spawn in a backpack as a blueprint. It would attach it there. The transform itself would probably be all these numbers, zeros, basically, because it's going to be relative. You want it spawned with no offset, for example. So you'd set up your backpack physically to attach it to. If you didn't want to do that, if you designed, for example, your mesh, our skeletal mesh right here, for example, he has bones. You can have a, let's see, where's his back? Spine, here we go. Spine will work. Spine won't work because that's not there. So, I mean, technically, spine would work. We could do, let's see, spine 3, and then we could add a socket to there. And then, come on, can I please move my socket? You're not going to cooperate. There we go. And then put a socket right here, for example, attached to that spot, and then socket's named, back socket or whatever we want to call it. And then we have a little socket we can attach stuff to, and you can do the same thing. So you could attach it to the actual mesh itself until it goes into the socket, back socket, and it'll attach it right there. So all of those methods will work perfectly fine. how you would want to do it is basically going to be up to you. More than I'm thinking the component attaching might be the better way, mainly because you say you're going to attach, for example, a jetpack. I have a personal feeling that by you're going to have a actual item in there. So for example, a mesh. If you do an actual blueprint and attach it to the component, then you're physically attaching something you've spawned in the world, which means it can have that mesh physically showing. So that's probably the smarter way. The component method is good for things like abilities. Like you want someone to have the ability to fire, maybe just add a component that gives them firing and things like that. This way is probably a good start. A couple things to keep in mind. This is a giant pain in the ass to get, I'm just going to be dead on serious here. This is a giant pain in the ass to get working right the first time as you figure things out, because of where this spawns in the world, and then once you attach it. One thing I found that I had to do a lot of the time, these location rules almost never seem to work properly for me. In theory, spawning it in at 0, so default settings, attaching it to a socket and telling it to keep relative, for example, should be fine. However, I found sometimes it doesn't properly put it in the correct spot. If that's the case, there's not a problem with simply, after you've done this, for example, go ahead and oops, stop it. Set, here we go. Set actor transform. So do something like this. Disconnect this. Yeah. And basically just, I know it seems stupid, but if you have this problem, go ahead and reset the transform basically after you've attached it, and you'll find a lot of the problems tend to go away. I don't know why these things don't work right all the time, but sometimes it will be an issue. So if you find that, for example, once you attach something, it's not in the right spot, it may have improperly kept the transform information. If you just reset it, because you're going to snap it to the back, you probably don't want any form of offset, and you just reset the transform basically afterwards. That's my biggest tip on that one. Other than that, just you have a few options. Screw with some of these things until you get it working right. I did a video series about designing houses, basically. So that would be a place to look for this. Hopefully I gave you some information. You said that's perfect, so I'm hoping this gave at least a start. In regards to the 180 quick turn, I tried it on the FPS template and the character doesn't turn. Okay, well, let's see if we can figure out the problem then, because there shouldn't be a problem. And I have an FPS template in here somewhere. Here we go. Does set actor rotation work on the character class? Yeah, set actor rotation should work on any actor, and a character is a basically a child of actor. So here is our first person character. So I'm assuming you mean on this character right here. Okay, so let's see if we can implement the code that I put in the other place. So let's grab the B key. Can I have the B key, pretty please? Where'd my B key go? There we go. I didn't close down, right? I can probably copy my code. Let's see if we can find out where my code went to. Oh, that's not it. There's my playground. Okay, so where did I put that? I put that in the third person character, right? Let's find you. Okay, cool. I'm glad I didn't delete the code. So let's see about swapping this over into here and see what happens. Press this. Okay, we're going to compile it, get some errors, create some variables, compile it, save it. Let's see, what else do we got for errors here? Flip character, because that is the timeline that I never named properly. So we're going to flip character, compile again. There we go. Okay, so let's see what happens just from the start here. Okay. So obviously that did not work properly. My character can move. Okay, cool. So something obviously did not work right here. And it should work fine. So why is this not working? Oh, well, this isn't finished. So this is an issue here. So give me a second. It would probably help if I actually had a working timeline. So let's eliminate this as a possibility. Point, not comma. Okay, so save that out. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see what happens. Okay, so that is rotating. It's just not rotating how we'd expect it. So let's see if we can play, eject, and see, that's not going to work for me testing. So let's see if we can figure out what is going on here. My guess is we can't rotate. Yeah, see, it's grabbing the controller rotation. I wonder if this is going to be it. Here, let's check our third person. To do character. Yeah, I bet you this is what it's going to be. So let's see how we can fix that. Oh, great. I lost what we were working on. Okay. So let's see what happens if we do this, shall we? Okay. Okay, so that wasn't it necessarily. There's certain things in here that inherit movement information that could be causing our issue. Which is what we want to find out. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So it's going to be the pawn control rotation. Whoops, let me go back and fix the other thing we undid. Wait, where does it at? Dagnabbit. Wait, no, because I need the character selected. Here we go. Okay, so let's go back to our camera. Okay, let's double check. Let's make sure this doesn't work. Okay, cool. So inside of our first person camera, there's roughly 3 things that determine if the player is controlling the camera or if the player is kind of controlling the character itself. So it's your main differences between your first and your third person character. They're going to primarily be these things. Use the controller rotation yaw. It's going to be the use pawn control rotation. And it's going to be the use controller desired rotation and orient rotation to movement. Those options basically allow you to switch between first and third person, and determines whether or not, if you look in this one, it determines whether or not our mouse controls our character or our mouse controls the camera. That's basically your difference. In our third person example, our mouse controlled the camera, so if our character moved, the camera didn't care. In our first person, with this use pawn control rotation, basically, well, like I said, if the camera component is placed on a pawn, should it use the view control rotation of the pawn where possible. So basically, we're rotating the pawn, but the camera's overriding that. So if we uncheck this and we run this, you'll notice that the code works fine. Now we have an issue where we can't look up and down anymore, where if we check that, that's what gives us our up and down, our full movement. The nice thing is, this is a blueprint, and that is a blueprint property. It's a property on our camera. So we can really easily go into here. We already have our disable input, so let's drag this off here, like that. We'll grab our first person camera, like that, and what we want is the pawn control rotation. Pawn control rotation. Set it. We tell it not to use it. We'll copy this. Oops, and we'll hook this back up. We'll go back over here, and after I want to unconnect this because I want to move it over farther, like this. Whoops, paste this in like this. Plug it in like that. Set it back to use the control rotation. Put it into finished, and hit play, and there we go. So now it works. So we still have all of our movement. They can hit B, and it's going to snap them on their 180. Whoop, whoop, and that gets really friggin' disoriented. But you can see it's not working. Nope, it's not working. Huh. Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, we still have an issue here. Yeah, we're going to run into an issue still. So this, yeah. Dang it. We still have an issue. It looked like it was working, but my brain was manually not making it work right. Yeah, you'll notice it's actually flipping us back to our original spot. We are switching the rotation, but the camera's not rotating. So what we probably want to do, I'm thinking, is keep this unchecked, check this, and we want to rotate the camera probably. So let's not, let's see. So let's get rotation. Yeah, I'm thinking this is probably what we want to do. Probably drive this based on the rotation of the camera, not the rotation of the player. And let's see, we'll grab the first person camera and we'll set rotation. So we'll set the world rotation. Let's unhook these, move it out of the way, move this one down, hook it up. And let's see what happens if we do this, shall we? No, still, seriously? Are you really going to be a giant pain in my rear here? Oh, you will not win. Okay, so we know our 180 is working. Our problem is we are not... Okay, let's check our other options then. We know that if this is disabled... oh, probably because I disabled it right here. So let's test some stuff. Okay. Okay, so we know that doesn't work. So let's figure this out. I know we can do it. We have the math in theory somewhere. So let's see what other options may be causing this issue. I doubt it's that one, personally. Whoa, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Interesting. Okay, so it's not that one. Let's find our player right here. Grab his details. Grab this stuff right here. I'm going to debug some stuff. So grab our player. Where'd our player go? First person character. Here we go. And then, okay. So our rotation on the actor is fine. Let's find our camera. Our camera does not rotate. Okay, so our camera is not rotating. So we do want to change the... It's our capsule and our first person character. So do we... Okay, so we probably want to change our... See, don't you have to update both the character rotation and the camera rotation? No, I think we're just rotating the wrong stupid thing is what it is. It's one of those things where you just have to... First person is a giant pain in my rear. Let's see, so let's try if it's the capsule component we want, not the camera. Whoops, forgot you can have multiple things plugged in. We don't want that. There we go. Try that. Okay, yeah, we'll see, we're still getting... Okay, so let's see what happens. So this is 0. So our set's working, it's just snapping us back to our original rotation. That is super interesting. It's got to be because the controller is overriding it, right? Let's see, where's the stupid options at? Okay, why did we stop working properly here? Huh. Okay. I'm definitely going to call this one really confusing. Because we know it's working. And we know it's rotating properly. But it's being overridden. And it's being overridden by our stupid character movement. Huh. I doubt teleport's gonna do any difference here. Yeah, see? It's just being rotated back. How do we... Okay, you know what? I'm gonna try something. Let's try something here, shall we? Let's see. Set actor rotation. Okay, let's see what happens if we just try to set just the actor rotation. Oops. Yeah, see, so it's setting it and immediately unsetting it. That's interesting. Let's do a what is this? Is it R-interp 2? No, I don't want R-interp. I guess an R-interp 2 would technically work. That's not going to work properly because I need to drive this from like the tick. I don't time it now. CSC. And hello, Christopher. Let's see. Aha! Okay. Okay, so I was kind of right about this. Let's try this. We just need to find it. Here we go. Pop like that, and this is going to be our controller reference. Let's try this, shall we? Nope, seriously? Oh, ha. Just ignore the fact that I didn't plug it in. No one saw that happen. There we go. Okay. Okay, so, yeah, I knew it had something to do with the fact that we're driving the rotation from the controller rather than driving... Okay, so... Yeah, okay, so for this one right here, wherever it was at, here, let's see if we can, see, whoops, I have no idea how I did that. That was kind of cool. Which panel did I accidentally move? Is it like this? Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so there we go, new map. And go back to a third-person character. There we go. Okay. So for this one, it works fine because our camera is separate than the character. And our camera rotation doesn't affect the character. Our controller controls the movement of our character here. So that's why if we hit the button, we can still rotate our character and it'll work perfectly fine. Because the camera has nothing to do with it. In the third person. In the first person... We're driving, and it's going to be these stupid options, like this one right here. We're driving the movement of the player by the controller. So our player controller is inputting in information to here, and it drives it. So the rotation of our controller, which it keeps track of independently, drives what we're doing. So we basically have the, our little character in here, our capsule component and all this stuff. The rotation of all of that drives the camera and everything we're looking at. So the key is basically, let me get rid of all the crap we don't need because that's just getting a little bit funky in here. We don't need technically all of these are fine. You could just get the actors if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. The capsule component and the first person character, their rotations are all synced up. Probably get the controller rotation. That one might be the smarter way to do this, I'm thinking. No, okay. But anyways, as long as you get the rotation, so, I mean, we could probably just get actor rotation. Would have been smarter anyways. We'll do this. That way it's one less node. Make sure we grab our actor's rotation and store it. Same thing we did before. The biggest difference here is... actually, do we even need this anymore? Let's find out, shall we? Use pawn, control rotation. Let's see if that causes an issue. Okay, that does not. Okay, so use pawn control rotation. That's not an issue. So we can get rid of these nodes. Those were nice to know, but were basically not to solve our problem. Put these back up. Move these back over like this. Okay. So yeah, it's basically the same setup we had before. It's just in the first person, you're going to set the control rotation. You're not going to set the actor's rotation. So hopefully that will at least answer. Yeah. So we're going to, in a first person, we want to set the control rotation. And as you can see, it works properly rather than improperly where I thought it worked properly in the first place. And you can see if, for example, we're facing this block dead on, we'll hit rotate. You can see we're going to come back to that block every single time. Now, one thing to note, it's going up when I rotate because all I'm doing is combining this information here for my ending rotation. So if you want it to just flip like 180 without adjusting the camera, actually that looks better. If you keep it like this and they flip 180, it keeps the camera. But anyways, you could do some math, basically figure out where the current up and down rotation of the camera is, of the controller, and then add that in to your flip. I like that. That's kind of cool. Okay, so yeah, I got distracted by way too much. Okay, let's see. While we're on camera stuff, how do you set what a camera can and can't collide with? That's a good question. Where's our third person template? Let's close down our first person template. Let's grab our third person template. I guess it just depends on the camera you're talking about. If we're talking about a camera actor in the world, or are we talking about a camera on the blueprint? Because I mean, a camera actor itself should have its own. Well, camera actors don't really matter because they don't attach to anything. But our third person character here, for our follow camera, I don't think cameras have collision. Oh, because I don't think a camera can technically ever have collision. Your camera boom, on the other hand, this is what determines collision for the front and back. But I don't think a camera can ever have collision. Maybe I'm not understanding the question correctly. Yeah, it's probably the boom you're thinking of. And the boom itself has its own camera collision section, and that's the probe channel that you care about. This is what determines what it collides with. So you could technically set a probe channel well, technically, if you just uncheck this, it'll never collide with anything. But this is what you do. You could set your own collision channel and then have it only collide with certain things. Future Banger, how would you set the color picker in the widgets? Do you mean make your own color picker? If you mean make your own color picker, you literally need to make your own color picker. Oh crap, I forgot to post on Twitter that I was streaming. Seriously? Oh well, give me a second. I knew I was in the middle. I forgot to do something. I kind of got distracted. I got a question right off the bat and totally forgot what I was doing. Pepsi Man. There we go. Now I don't feel so bad. The music I have playing in the background is right now it's Pepsi Man. It's the where's my music thing you go to? Let's see that. But these are soundtracks. These are just video game soundtracks. Pepsi Man was from a Sega soundtrack. I just have a bunch of video game soundtracks. Creating a color picker. So creating a color picker, technically I kind of did something like that. Well, okay, a couple things. You're not gonna. Well, okay. Let me rephrase this. Okay, I'm jumping like 5 levels ahead of myself here. In terms of a traditional color picker, so like something like this one right here, this is all custom code. You could technically go into the C++ code and make your own. Or like Vanguard's mentioning, there's a cheap color picker on the marketplace. This is very custom code. You'd have to go into the slate, go into the C++. You could pull it out and technically make a widget out of it if you wanted to. If you want to do something really cheap and easy, if I can figure out where I put it, which I can almost guarantee I can't remember where I put it. Damn. This is one of those issues where I bet you it is the slider thingy. What's that called? What's a slider bar? Is this it? Oh, damn it. Or is it the... Damn it. I made an example of a color picker, but it was just 3 slider bars that allow you to change the color. And I was hoping I could find it, which I can't. So let's just, I mean, you could talk about here. Let's try to make a really cheesy one here. This is definitely not going to be high quality, but we might be able to get something working here. So the keys, so you could do it either numbered valued, or you can do, basically what Vanguard's bringing up is you could do, you either enter direct RGB values, or you could do it on a slider. So we could do, for example, a really simple version here of RGB values. We don't even need to do RGB values. We'll technically do 0 to 1s. You know, and you have like red box, green box, red, green, and blue box. And then open up a graph, get rid of everything in here. On text committed. Always got to make sure this is equal to entered, because if you don't, it's stupid. Because then it'll just, every time you friggin' starts up, it's a giant pain in the rear. We can set a image. Where's an image? Here's an image like this. Bloop, bloop. And this will be our image. Go like this. We'll grab a color image and we'll set color and opacity. Split this like this. We're always going to have an alpha of 1. Bloop, like that. And then we are going to... we don't need any of that, so we're going to grab our box, and we're going to get the text out of our box. Get text. Convert that. Seriously, you're not going to... You're seriously going to be a pain in my butt, aren't you? I don't know why you can't convert a text to a float, but you can't, because it doesn't like to do that. Blue. Red box. Green box. Blue box. Save those. Grab our designer. Grab some default values. Of 0. 0 and 0. Obviously, this is not the best way of doing this, but this isn't about the best way of doing this. This is about getting something working, and then you can iterate from there. Why did I do blue box first? Because the blue box decided it wanted to be first. Because these things are stupid. Like that. There we go. So we can do something like this. And then... Oops. Bloop. And then bloop. And again, not the best way of doing this, but if we can get something working is the key here. Bloop. Bloop. You're gonna be a pain in my butt, aren't you? Yep. Okay, not the best organized thing in the world, I'll tell you that much. Level blank. Blueprints, level blueprint, begin play, create widget, color picker, add to viewport, check, get layer controller, check, set input UI, check, set show mouse, check. Okay, let's see what happens. Oops. There we go. So, I mean, here is literally a basic color picker. You type in your values, you know, your different values, and you get a different color out of it. If you want something more than that, it's a lot more work. For example, the easiest way to expand upon this would be to just make this sliders. So we can take this from our color picker here, which is our boxes, and you actually turn these into sliders. And give yourself a slider for each one, have it change the value between 0 and 1. And then every time your little slider here has the value changed. So every time you slide on it, then you just simply do the same thing and apply the current value of the slider between 0 and 1. That would give you at least a really simple RGB set of sliders back and forth. So for example, red slider, Control C, Control V, green slider, and blue slider. So we have red slider, we have green slider, we have blue slider. Oh, that's not how you do. Wait, where'd my blue slider go? There we go. My blue. Whoa, wait. Wow, I grabbed the wrong slider. That's kind of cool. And you know what? I'm going to put these underneath. There's my green slider. Down. Oh, seriously? You're not going to let me drag it there? There we go. Like that. There we go. And then underneath like that. Move him over a little bit like that. And then we should be able to change these and sell them read-only. Obviously, that's not the smartest way of doing it, but it doesn't really matter. And then now we could take our simple code we have here, and we'll go our red slider, and value changed. And all we have to do on this one is do the same basic stuff. We're gonna, we're just gonna be super duper cheesy here. And we're going to grab our red box. And we're going to set the text on the red box since we already have stuff here. And we're going to set that to this value. Boop, like that. Move that down, move that up. Like that. And then that technically will allow us to cheat and go into here like that. So if that was set up properly, you can see we now have a slider. We can adjust our red. And you can do the same thing for the green and blue. And that gives you a really simple... Obviously, we didn't hook up green and blue yet, but, obviously red, green, blue. Like this. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. And then we'll grab this code right here and paste it into here. Like this. Bloop. And we'll hook you up in there so I don't forget you, because I'm apt to forget you. This is like some of the funkiest code I've ever... No, I can't say ever done. I tend to do funky code all the time. And you're not going to let me switch, are you? Nope. So red box, green... green box. Where's my green box? There's my green box. RG and the blue box. There we go. So now in theory we have... something that should work if I set this up properly. Oh, it would help if I plugged in these values, huh? like that. There we go. So now you have one where you have a little set of sliders. I mean, that's not a lot of code, and at least makes it simple on the user. They can easily adjust things like that. Like Harry was mentioning, there are algorithms for converting like hue, saturation, and value to RGB, so you could do things like that. Other than that, let's see. Other than that, technically, you can get the value. You can get Okay, so there is another way of doing this as well. It looks like Vanguard may have found a free color picker. You post the link if you can. Maybe it'll help people out. There is a completely other way of doing this, which I would think would be super duper weird. But technically, if you were to look at a material and we grabbed a texture coordinate node, which is super annoying to find. If you grabbed a texture coordinate node, you'll notice the texture coordinate node has, you know, kind of like color ranges. It technically has red, green, and blue. And you could make your own material you could make your own material that mimics a color wheel, for example. And then you could put it in a certain spot, and you can get its location on the screen relative to the widget on the mouse down. So, I mean, that could work. That's like a really weird way of doing it, which I wouldn't recommend doing because that's really weird. But, I mean, that's a basic color picker there. It looks like Vanguard's got a link to a color picker that may work for 4.15. Well, may work at some point. So that's another try. So, that's a lot of stuff. And the reason you wanted this was character overlaps the trigger. Customization widget appears, then you could choose a body bane color. I did that with the sliders. Yeah, I mean, the only other option I can think of, future, if you don't want to use the 3 sliders, give them a presets. Give them like 10 different color presets that will adjust the sliders at the same time. So you have 10 different colors, and then every time they pick one, the sliders adjust. So that way they have 10 presets to go off of, and then they can adjust them as they want from there. That may work as an alternative. So that's gonna be my thought process. Hopefully some of these options work. The actual color picker widget itself, though, like people have mentioned, you'll either get it from the store, try to grab that free version, learn to convert the existing Slate widget to UMG, or create your own. For someone else who mentioned it, I really don't know why the color picker is not one of the default widgets. There's two: the color picker and the group box are two things that I don't understand why they're not widgets in the system yet. It would be nice to add them in. I don't have the experience to add them in, or I'd love to. Ugh. Yeah, you can make a color chooser. That's not a problem. You have, where'd our color picker go? You know, you have images, and you can just make a variable and make it colors and make it a linear color structure like this. Make it an array, and then it's just an array of colors. So then you can pre-populate this to whatever you want. So you could have like this one's red, and this one's blue, and this one's yellow. And then you have an array of colors, and then you can just add images with those colors, and when they click on the image, it passes along the color or the index or whatever you want, and it's just a basic color chooser. That should be totally possible. You know, you have like or, I mean, that's just if you want to soft code it in terms of an array. You could always hard code it. Just, you have an image, you know, just grab an image and grab another image and grab another image, grab another image and grab another image, and we'll just grab a bunch of images. Actually, images are probably a stupid way of doing this. I'm going to be honest. The smart thing would probably be a button and another button and another button and another button. And then you should go into your buttons and we will grab our color and opacity and we'll set this to like 0, 0, like that. We'll set our background color to nothing. Oop. That's not what I meant. This is the color of the stuff inside of it, which is probably not what we want. We want that back to white. Those ones always get me every time. I swear. There we go. So you go like that. Whoop. Where'd one go? I lost alpha. There we go. And then you have buttons. And you just have buttons for each one. That's what I meant to say button, but because I do the same thing every time. I make images to click on, then I realize that images don't have a click event. You could technically do it, but it's a pain in the ass. You have to do on the mouse down and check what it's going over. Just use a button, honestly. And if you're worried about the color, just change the style, for example. Make it so, you know, hovered, you can paste and paste like this. Make it so all of your styles are the same, so that way it doesn't change when you mouse over it. That's probably a super easy way of doing it. See how these change, but now this one doesn't change? Obviously, if you want it to change, you could still do that. I just meant more the fact that you know, it looks different. Like, if we look to here, we'll make this one blue. Seriously, I did it again, didn't I? Yep, I did it again. I meant to do that. There we go. Yeah, see, so, because, like, you have, technically, I mean, yeah, obviously, make it look like however you want. That could work as well. Any of those things would work. There's no reason you couldn't do this and this. When you click on a button, it fills out these values automatically. That was kind of weird. I kind of, like, got it. Really, that was cool. Anyways, you can make it where they click on a button, it fills out these values, and then they can adjust it as well from there. So presets plus sliders. Have like a little advanced toggle or something. I think someone asked... Oh, here we go. Zloty. I want to make a line trace between a cube and another cube, but I want to subtract a little bit of the length of the line trace. How could I do that? Well, a line trace is literally a point to a point. You define the 2 points. So, I guess the question would be... I'm kind of confused, to be honest. Because, like, here's my trace start blueprint. Let me rotate this over this way. Which it didn't. Oh, it's freaking going in one direction, isn't it? There we go. So here is a blueprint where we're doing a line trace. And its starting point is wherever I am, and its ending point is 1,000 from where I am. So your line trace is basically your decision. So if you want it to be less, if you want it to be less, then you just make your distance less. So if do you have a little more information, Zloty? I may not have forgot about you, Christopher. I may just not have seen it. Okay, here we go. Suppose you have a character or an object of some sort in your world. We'll go with an object. And it's surrounded by many other actors. Okay. And you want to find the distance to the object closest to your main character or object that's being surrounded. That shouldn't be too hard. Start line. Okay. So, you can do, I want to say there was a nearest node. Man. No, okay. So, let's say we have, let's see, what's the easiest way of doing this? For an example. So here's our line trace. Oh crap, let's just make a new. Let's make a new folder. Closest to us. It's closest to us. So we have a blueprint. We're gonna call this one blueprint main object. And then we're going to call another blueprint, and we'll call this one blueprint objects around us. There we go. We're going to go with something like that. And we'll add a static mesh component, and we will make this cone. So the objects around us will be cones, and our self will be not a cone. What do we want to be? I like the VR goggles. I like using these ones. These are cool. Make it bigger though. There we go. Okay. So let's start up a new map like this. And let's put, here's our main object. Ooh, yeah. Let's see, I don't need the player start. We won't need that. So here's our main object. He's going to be our dude who looks for stuff around us. And then here's our stuff that's around us. And we'll just put a bunch of stuff around us. Like this. And you basically want to see what is the closest object around us. And that's for you, Christopher. Sorry about that. Yeah, so does this example look good for what you're asking about, Christopher? You want to basically, you're the little goggles in the middle, and you want to find whichever of these objects is closest to your main character? In regards to that question, does distance matter, or is it only the horizontal distance? For example, if this dude's down here, this dude's up here, like this, but he's way up here, is it the distance from here to here on a horizontal plane, or do you mean the entire distance from here to here, the entire length? Which one actually matters? The horizontal distance or the length itself from the thingy to the thingy? And back to Zlotty, the cubes are always moving. Okay. So the line trace updates to the location of the starting cube and the ending cube. And I want the line trace to start a little bit after the starting cube. Okay, well, that shouldn't be... Assume they're on the same level horizontally. Okay, so that shouldn't be an issue. In regards to... Where'd my stupid line... Here we go. In regards to what you're asking, Zlotty, get your actor's location and just add vector. So grab his starting location and add whatever direction he's currently going in. And then your ending will be the cube you're going to. So, like, if he's moving in the X direction, just add 25. And now it's going to be where he's at plus 25. That's your starting location. Oops, we go back to that. Just alter your starting location by giving it a little bit. Just add to the vector of the current on the axis you want it to be updated on. That's your basics, Zlotty. Assuming you know the direction it's going in, you can just simply add this. You could always, if you want to make sure it's a certain amount, you can just figure out where he was at last frame, for example, compared to the current frame, and you could add that in here specifically. But yeah, just grab, you're just going to add is all you're going to do. Okay, so let's close our color picker. Let's close down all of our HUD stuff for now, because I don't think we're getting to that. Okay, object surrounds main object. Okay, so here's our main object. So off the top of my head, my thought process is we could, oops. Oh, for Pete's sake. Oh, what's it called? Here we go. Probably, box overlap actors is probably better. Okay. So, let's see. Just do, I'm gonna do this on tick. Oh, why the hell did that happen? Oh, because I don't have context sensitivity turned on. How rude is that? Okay, so let's try that. So, let's see. Get actor location. And we're going to make our box extent, 500, 500, 500. These should be the objects we care about. We're going to make array. And we're only going to care about, what are these going to be? What are the objects around us? These are going to be dynamic, right? Yeah. Right? Are they world dynamic? Yeah, okay. So we want world dynamic. And they are going to be objects around us, like that. There we go. And let's see if this works. I did not mean to get, I meant to do a length. So let's debug this and see if this works. Okay, cool. So this knows that we have 7 things around us. Yeah, no, so this isn't a problem, but you can, for the easiest thing to do here. Now I'm 99% sure there is a friggin' node to get the closest, but for some reason I can't remember what it's called. I'm gonna be honest here. I could swear there was a nearest or a closest node, but I can't seem to find it. But it's not really a big deal. If we do this, for example, box overlapped actors, this will give us everything overlapping us. And then we can just for each through all of them. This should work. This is just my brain thinking out loud here. And then you can get the vector length. Oh, we got to get the location of it first. So get the actor location. So this will give us the location of what we hit. And this will get us the location of us. And then you can do a length. Like that. And this will give us the... seriously? Damn it. I think it's just subtract, right? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Grab where we are, subtract that, get the length. Like I could swear there was an easier way of doing this. I'm going to be honest. I just can't seem to remember where it is. And then we'll just make a new variable in here called closest object. And make it an actor because it's easier. And then, see, if you did this inside of a function, we could use local variables, but we're not, so we're just going to do this. We're just going to add normal variables in here. But this should give us just a little bit of simple math here. So the closest object's length is 0.0. Chances are that's bad, so you would set this something to like that by default. And then we'll just simply do an if check. And keep in mind, I'm doing all this off the top of my head, and then of course we can optimize it and check and see if this is the smartest way. But this should work. So if, I gotta stop doing, and I already have an if. So if this vector length is less than the closest object's length, so this means we got a new closest object, then we're going to set the closest object to the item that we have, and we're going to set the closest object length. And I don't know what you plan on using this for, so I'm just doing this right here. And then when we're done, let's see, print string, closest object, turn this into a name. Okay, so if this works, we should get, yeah, whoops. I probably should not have, oh no, that was right. I killed the, there we go, okay. So this says object 6 is the closest thing around us. So let's eject out, and is this object 6? No, okay. So this may not be properly working. That's what we're gonna find out. I think my code is horribly, horribly wrong. Okay, so let's try this, because it looks like this one should be the closest, right? Oh, we wanted to do on the horizontal as well, so this kind of oh, distance. Oh fuck, that's what it is. Okay, first of all, this, here we go. This is what I meant to. There we go. Like I said, I knew there was a better one here. Okay. There we go. So this is the object that's other and target. So okay, this is the node. This is why I was asking if you wanted it just on like the horizontal or if you wanted the total one. The get horizontal distance to node gives us the distance ignoring the z. That's what I meant to do there. Okay, now this still says 6 is the closest one. Haven't we determined 6 was not the closest one? Yeah, our math is failing miserably. Who agrees that our math is failing miserably here? It looks like 4 should be the correct one, right? So someone's math is in here wrong. So if it's less... Oh, because I'm an idiot. We're not setting... any of these values here. At least on this one, since I removed that. So let's fix that. Okay, there we go. There's 7 now is telling us is the correct one. Which is probably going to be that node up there. Okay, so we're getting a different result this time. Which one is 7? Can we eject? Okay, cool. And where's 7? 7 is technically above us, I bet you. Okay, so I'm betting you this works. You know, no, 4 was probably correct, except for 7 is probably closer. And let's figure this out. So let's put this at 0, 0, 0. We're going to put this in the middle at this point. And we'll put this in the middle. We'll run the code. This tells us 7 is our closest. Let's grab 4. 4 is going to be on the X and the Y, roughly, 146 and 60. Whereas this one is 23 and 50. Remember, we're ignoring the Z this time. So technically this one would be. Now, if you want, for example, if this is kind of hard to see because everything's obviously not on the same Z. Can I select them all, please? Let's just set them all to 50 on the Z. So now we know for sure that they are all. And now you can see that 7 is definitely closer than that one. And we can move this one away, and now it should turn to 4. And in theory, since I'm running this on the tick in the editor, when I repossess, is my box overlap not running every time? No, it is. Are you just being a giant pain in my butt here? Okay, there we go. Let's actually try to make this smarter now. Let's grab a player start. Like this. Put a player start in here. Let's grab ourselves a third-person game mode. Start this up. Okay, cool. And then let's grab that code, and we're going to slap this into our character. That way we can double check and make sure this is actually working. Third-person character. Blueprints. There we go. Like that. Create our missing variables. Create our missing variables. I know there's another one in here. There we go. Oh, okay. Yep, I was literally about to figure out this problem. Yep, because I never reset these variables whenever I do the new box overlap after. I never reset these two things before I run my loop. I'm going to end up with an issue. Nope. So these should be reset. These, again, these aren't the smartest. This is not the smartest way of doing this. This is just putting it on a tick for testing purposes. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So there we go. So you can see how it's telling us it's us 2, it's us 4, it's us 3, and you can see how it's changing the closest target to us. This is not performant at all in terms of, you know, it's probably not that bad. We're not looping through too many things, honestly. This is not that bad. An overlap is just, this is not too bad on terms of code. This isn't horrible because we only have 7. Yeah, you guys are all on top of me on top of that one. Yeah, it's very common for me to forget to reset things. Very, very common. But Christopher, hopefully this is the basics. So we used a box overlap actors node. Basically inside of wherever we care about. I did not mean to click on that. And we're going from our actor's location into and finding around us stuff. I want to find all of my objects around us. That's the blueprint I'm looking for. And I am, yeah, I have a box overlap afters. Isn't it better to omit array and do an intersect? What do you mean by doing an intersect? What kind of, you mean just a line trace? And No. Yeah, this is not in front. No, he just simply, yeah, if it was in front of us, it would be a little bit easier. He wants to know technically just what is the closest object around us. So in this case, it's box overlap afters. You could, of course, there are other ones. There is where's the other ones at? Where are they hiding? I know they're hiding in here somewhere. There we go. There's a capsule overlap actors. There's a component. I could swear there was a sphere, but I guess, yeah, sphere overlap actors. I knew it was in there somewhere. So there's a few other types of overlap actors, but basically it just makes a big overlap box or whatever around you and gives you anything that's around you. And then all I'm doing is figuring out the distance to that object for each of these based on where I currently am, comparing that to whatever we've stored as the closest object, and then updating it as needed. I don't, off the top of my head, this is probably not the most performant. There are probably better ways of doing this. Like, for example, maybe doing it every 10th of a second instead of the tick would be smarter. Hooking up something to here to make sure we're only running our code if we've hit something. What else might be more performant? Other than that, no, we might be okay. Obviously, printing out stuff isn't needed. But the get horizontal distance to node is what gives us that. You can always do the get distance to node as well. But there's 4 of these in here. They're really handy. If you don't care about the vertical distance, then just do the horizontal. If you care about the total, do the distance. If you care about just the up-down, use the vertical. Trigger volume. You could technically put a box around you and do the same thing. But then you're going to get an overlap. You're going to have to keep track of stuff. If you put like a box collision around you, things are come in and out of your collision volume, and you have to keep track of things coming in and out. And then you're still going to have to do your distances, but that might not be too bad. You still have to do a distance check every tick or whatever. But you wouldn't have to run this code every tick. You would just basically add and remove things from your surrounding area. So that might be a way of doing that. I've done that for interactable objects before, and it works fairly well. But I didn't care about distance. So that, yes, serializer, that is another way of doing that. You could, while we're here, why not? Because, you know, you could set up a box collision and set that up to, you know, around your player like that. And then anytime something begins overlap, where my box collision goes, and end overlap, you can just simply add them to like your, you know, you have like stuff near us, and make that into an array, make that into an array of actors like this, and you can add and you can remove like this, and you can do something really simple like this. Let's see, boop, like that, and boop, like that. And then that would just allow you to basically add and remove dynamically stuff as it hits you. And then you could run your loop through the stuff nearest, is all you'd have to do. So you could basically skip this code here by running this code here. Either way works. Performance-wise, I don't know. Maybe this one would edge out the other one a little bit. I honestly don't know how much performance it takes for a box overlap actor. I always forget to use these. I always do a box trace. I always forget to use these because I don't know why my brain just doesn't remember to use them for some reason. I mean, because technically you could do a box trace for objects, and you could set this up as well. You'd set it up like, you know, same thing. Get actor location. Let's see. Let's grab this. You might as well cover all the different ways of doing this because this is fun. We'll add a vector to this one. Give it just a little bit of an offset. So that way it makes a box around our location. 250, 250, 250. for the half size. You can do the same thing. Set up your object types for whatever you want in here. You know, like that, and you can get everything. The biggest difference is your overlap actors has a filter built in. You'd have to filter out stuff on here or ignore everything else. And then you have oh crap, we wanted the multi-box trace. That would have been the one we wanted, so that way we actually get an array instead of a single item. Like that. Oh, this one meant to go in, that one meant to go in. There we go. So that's another way of doing it right there. That'll give you the same. That'll give us the same result basically. Biggest one on this one is we'll get everything. So you'll get things that are actually we wanted dynamic. So in this case, you might get other objects that are dynamic, which you may not want. Yeah. So that's why the box overlap one is good, because you can filter out what you just want. I think that's 3 ways of doing the same thing. That's kind of a good number. Let's see, and he is implementing it for a third-person view, so that way it works. When it gets the distance to the closest object, the camera pawn will go to the nearest object. Okay, cool. Hey Matthew, you have a find a node feature in your Unreal. Does that come standard, or is it something that's third-party? I have nothing third-party, because if I tried to use stuff that was third-party, I'd have to show people how to use it, and it wouldn't be fair. Are you talking about this right here? Is this what we're talking about, find a node? Yeah, if you have information about the find a node, let me know. Shrink the trigger volume with the item that enters it to be the distance from the radius. That's another way of doing it dynamically. And hello everyone else who's popping up and stuff like that. The bummer part for everyone who's showing up now is we're wrapping up today. I got 0 work done on the RTS HUD. I just answered questions, which is awesome. I'm totally happy with that. Hopefully that helped the people I could. But we're probably wrapping up in another 10 minutes or so. So if there's any more questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to help out. If not, I'm waiting on... Someone asked me about a find a node feature. So if you have more information, let me know what you mean by what it looked like or how I accessed it. I'll let you know what it is. That's about all I could say. I have nothing special in my Unreal Engine. I'm using the default Unreal Engine from the editor itself. From the launcher. I also keep missing Paragon stuff today. Oh. Okay, I gotta stop doing that. Let's see. I was wondering on a high level, I suppose, how would you have a character that normally runs on the ground be able to climb any surface, like the new Zelda or Aliens vs. Predator? Z Lottie, where you can find all the nodes. Well, the palette right here. Oh, find a node. Ha, okay. So window, palette, right here. And that gives you your palette. And I just docked it over here, and that gives you your favorites and your find a node. I'm guessing that's what you meant. And then you can also, this is kind of cool, you can sort it by the classes. So like, skeletal mesh, these are the only things that apply to skeletal meshes, for example. Only things that apply to cable actors, or you set it up to all, and it shows you all. But it's under window and then palette. And then it'll show up somewhere and you can dock it wherever you want. Oh, yes, this video will get saved. I will cover that when we wrap up. Let's see. So, it's a very complicated question there, Robin, in regards to that. It's a lot of work, basically. If one thing you'll notice for Zelda, for example, because I've been playing Breath of the Wild, when he walks to a surface he's going to climb on, he kind of does a little jump to jump onto the surface. So that's an animation. Basically, you can do line traces and stuff like that. And when it finds you're up against a surface that you can climb on, and you're going to push up, for example, or continue walking in that direction, it'll just take your character, for example, and it will... Oh my gosh. Sorry about this. Apparently Epic is giving out a bunch of Paragon stuff and I'm missing out. Wow, they are going fast today too. There was like a 500 use code that went instantly. Boy, man, those are going fast today. Sorry about that, slightly off topic, but I like Paragon and it's their 1-year anniversary and they're giving out free stuff. Yeah, so yeah, you'd basically you'd use line traces and you would see which surfaces are around you and stuff like that. And you would line trace, for example, up against your wall when you get to it, and then you would take control from the character, play an animation. The official Paragon Twitter is handing out codes. So you'd line trace against your surface or whatever. It would do an animation. Your character would then move to the surface, and then you change your movement type. You no longer, for example, because inside of your character, if you're using your character form move, for example, what's it called? Mode. I swear it was called type. Seriously, is it not? There we go. Set movement mode. Built into the character movement, you have different movement modes. And you can do custom modes in here. So, for example, by default, you're going to have walking as your default mode. But you have things such as falling, swimming, flying, and custom. So you can set up your own movement modes. So your character by default is walking. That's what gives them the gravity and stuff like that. When you go onto the thing, you could set your character to flying, but then just fix him to that thing so that way gravity wouldn't apply. You don't even technically need to do that. You could just disable gravity on the character and attach him to the surface. And then have him, once you're on that surface, your arrows now relate to basically moving up, down, left, and right. Once he gets off the surface, once he's on the ground, you can set back to walking. It's a lot of custom code. You basically just move your character between different movement modes, and you adjust the controls accordingly. A lot of if statements, I guess. Not really a lot, but basically the movement code adapts itself to the movement mode. And you can even set up your own movement mode. You don't even need to do this. Because your character movement does have, you know, the... You can change, for example, gravity scale. You could turn on and off gravity. You can set them to custom movement. Set them if they're flying or not, and things like that. Interacting with physics. It's all in the character movement itself. There is no simple way of doing it. It is a lot of custom code, basically. I know I've said it like 3 times now, but there's no simple way to do it, unfortunately. I wish there was, but if you look at... Let's see. This was an older project I'm trying to pull up right now that may at least give you the basics of it. There we go. Yeah, it's yeah, there is here I'm trying to find. Okay, so here is a link I'm going to put in here to someone's channel. And he's got a 5-part tutorial system on ledge climbing. Now, the ledge climbing and hanging is a part of that, but also part of this is changing the movement mode as you go up and down the walls and things like that. So wall climbing, and it gives you the basics of changing the modes and the movement types. It's something to look at. It's a year old. It still works though, and it's a way to do adjustable movement methods. It might be something to look into. That's my thing. And like he's got there's like a little over 3 hours here for the basics. So it's a pretty in-depth start to doing something. Hopefully that might help. Okay, so I think that's going to be it for the most part. We're looking at 1 hour and 51 minutes of streaming today. I've got none of the stuff I planned on working done today, just helping people out, which is perfectly fine. I got some cool stuff to play with. But I do have... this is what I have to work on today, unfortunately. I'm doing the rest of the Cheat Manager nodes. And for some reason, Fly does not seem to work properly. So I need to figure out why Fly is not working properly. Other than that, yeah. So because I've got, what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 nodes I have to do videos for today, so I can get them out. And Fly just simply doesn't seem to work properly because, you know, why not? Half of Epic's stuff doesn't seem to work properly, so why not make Fly not work properly? So on that note, we are going to wrap up for the day. It's, again, been almost 2 hours. I appreciate everyone for hanging out. Anyone who had questions, hopefully I could help somewhat. And if I couldn't, hopefully at least led you towards something. If you want to ask any questions, feel free to hit me up on the stream whenever they happen. They happen Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, roughly 10 o'clock Pacific in the morning. So 2 hours before now is when they start. Oh, and that's... okay, so I'm heading towards that. In the meantime, there will be an Epic stream tomorrow. And I believe it's on Robo Recall Sequencer. Yep, here we go. So tomorrow's stream on Epic will be a Robo Recall Sequencer cinematics. And if this is like the one I saw at GDC, this one's actually pretty cool. So this will be tomorrow. My next stream will be Wednesday. It'll be roughly, again, 10 o'clock Pacific, 2 hours before now. You can watch this stream when it's done. If you need to watch it again, it'll be on Beam and Twitch pretty much immediately. It'll show up about 2 hours from now on YouTube. My next one, again, will be Wednesday. I get lost when I'm doing this. Yeah, so don't mind me just repeating the same stuff over and over. Wednesday will be more of the RTS stuff, assuming no one has questions. Maybe we'll get to it this time. If not, I'll try to help people out again. Other than that, appreciate everyone hanging out. I'm going to mute the stream for about 30 seconds so it doesn't look like I disappeared into the future. Everyone have a good rest of their day. If I can find the mute button on the microphone.